And I want you to stop for a moment here. Take a breath, because this part is important. Your wound may explain your story, but it does not have permission to define your destiny. Let me say that again because someone needs to hear it. Your wound explains part of who you are, but it does not determine who you can still become. Yes, you were hurt. Yes, you were broken. Yes, you were disappointed. Yes, there were injustices. Yes, there were losses. Yes, there were nights when you felt like your soul was falling apart. But listen carefully. That does not mean your life is over, because there is something no one ever taught us. Pain changes people, but it does not necessarily destroy them. Sometimes it awakens them. Sometimes it makes them more human, wiser, more aware, deeper, more compassionate, more genuine. There are people who, after a great wound, stopped living superficially. They began to value silence, peace, real conversations, mental health, family, faith, authenticity, tranquility, and perhaps one of the hardest questions we must ask ourselves is this: am I living or merely surviving? Think about it, because there are people breathing, yet emotionally exhausted, people functioning, yet empty inside, people producing, yet disconnected, people smiling, yet broken, people surrounded by others, yet deeply alone. And that hurts, because there is a loneliness that has nothing to do with being physically alone. The worst loneliness is feeling misunderstood, feeling that no one truly knows what is happening inside of you, feeling that you must continue being the strong one, the mature one, the spiritual one, the one who endures, the responsible one, the problem solver. And while everyone believes you're doing fine, you are tired, very tired. And perhaps you are one of those people who learned from childhood to swallow pain, not to cry, not to bother anyone, not to be a burden, to handle everything alone, not to ask for help. Maybe you grew up hearing phrases like, be strong, don't cry, it's not a big deal, others have it worse, get over it, get back to work. And little by little, you learned something dangerous: to silence your pain. You became functional, productive, responsible, but emotionally disconnected. And one day, the soul begins to send the bill, because ignored pain does not disappear. It transforms. It becomes anxiety, hypervigilance, fear, perfectionism, a need for control, anger, sadness, emotional exhaustion, self-sabotage, difficult relationships, emptiness. Because yes, many times, the exhausted adult of today is the wounded child of yesterday trying to survive. And I know this part may hurt, but I want to speak to you honestly. There are people in their 40s, 50s, 30s, 20s, still searching for love where they never received it. Still trying to prove their worth, still seeking approval, still trying to heal something they never talked about. And here I want to say something deeply human. There is no shame in admitting that you are wounded. There is no shame in needing help. There is no shame in crying. There is no shame in admitting you are tired. There is no shame in going to therapy. There is no shame in seeking counseling. There is no shame in stopping. The shame lies in slowly destroying yourself while pretending everything is fine. Because let's be honest, how many people are collapsing in silence? A great many. And the problem is that we live in a culture that glorifies productivity while ignoring mental health. We celebrate the person who works nonstop, the one who never rests, the one who is always available, the one who endures, the one who produces, the one who sacrifices everything. But almost no one asks, how is your soul? No one asks, are you resting? Are you emotionally okay? Are you carrying too much? How is your mind sleeping? How is your peace? And perhaps today I want to ask you those questions, not the automatic answer, not the social answer, not I'm fine, not we're getting by, not with God's help, not surviving. No, the real question: how are you really? How is your mind? How is your heart? How is your faith? How is your peace? What are your thoughts like when no one is watching? How are you when the noise finally stops? Because there is something I have learned. Silence reveals many things. When the lights go out, when work is over, when the guests leave, when the phone stops ringing, when nobody is watching, the truth appears, the wounds appear, the exhaustion appears, the difficult thoughts appear, the questions appear, the fear appears, the anxiety appears, the sadness appears. And many people spend their lives running from silence for that very reason. Because silence confronts, Silence reveals, silence exposes, but perhaps that is where something powerful begins. Because when we finally stop running, we begin to listen to our soul. And I want to touch on an uncomfortable subject: the difference between healing and distracting yourself. Because many people think they are healing, but in reality, they are simply distracting themselves. Excessive work, endless scrolling, TV series, alcohol, shopping, content consumption, temporary relationships, food, social media, external validation, constant busyness, all to avoid feeling, all to avoid thinking, all to avoid facing reality. But healing is not ignoring. Healing is not numbing yourself. Healing is not pretending. Healing is not putting on a mask. Healing is confronting, and confronting hurts. It hurts to admit, this truly affected me. This left me insecure. This broke me. This made me afraid. This changed me. Because for years, many of us learned one thing: to act as if nothing happened. But it did happen. Of course it happened. The body knows it. The mind knows it. The soul knows it. And I want to tell you something with complete honesty. You do not need to keep proving your strength all the time. You do not have to win every battle today. You do not have to solve your entire life this week. You do not have to have all the answers. You do not have to carry everything alone. You do not have to be perfect. Listen to me. You do not have to be perfect to deserve peace. Let me say it again. You do not have to be perfect to deserve peace. Because many people live exhausted trying to be enough, spiritual enough, successful enough, attractive enough, strong enough, disciplined enough, good enough, and they become slaves to an impossible standard. But here is something important. Peace does not arrive when everything is perfect. Peace arrives when you stop fighting against yourself, when you stop punishing yourself, when you stop demanding more than is humanly possible, when you accept that you are human, that you make mistakes, that you get tired, that you need help, that you need to stop, that you need healing. And perhaps someone needs to hear this. God does not love a perfect version of you. God is not waiting for a performance. He is not waiting for you to pretend to be strong. He is not waiting for you to fake spirituality. He is not waiting for you to hide your pain. God sees the real human being, the exhausted one, the broken one, the confused one, the anxious one, the wounded one, the imperfect one. And perhaps one of the most honest prayers a person can pray is not a beautiful prayer. Sometimes it is something as simple as, God, I am tired. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't understand any of this. I need peace. I need strength. I need to breathe. And although it may seem small, that is faith too. Because sometimes faith is not having all the answers. Sometimes faith is continuing to walk even when tired, even when confused, even when broken, even when you do not understand. Because here is something important. Healing does not mean you will never hurt again. Healing means you stop living as a slave to pain. And that takes time.